But let's switch. The Albanese government's green energy plans will talk about something also totally irrational, totally damaging to the national interest. Their energy plans, Michael Costa, are just getting into worse and worse strife. Energy Minister Chris Bowen has got new emission standards, as you know, to force us to buy more electric cars. Just when one went up in flames in Melbourne yesterday, destroyed the garage, blamed on a bad charger. In the US, another electric car, Tesla, went up in flames after getting flooded in the hurricane there. The governor of Florida says residents actually, if you expect a flood or a cyclone or something, go and park your car on a hill. And now the head of the NRMA here back in Australia, it says you've got to check EV batteries in roadworthy tests, even though we're told that so far there's only been 6 electric vehicle car fires here, which might explain why Bowen is having to give up his target of having electric cars making up 89% of a new car sales in just 6 years from now. I mean, Michael, everywhere you look, Chris Bowen's green schemes are a disaster.
They're a complete disaster. And let's be clear here. EVs are not green. Let's make the fundamental point that's being missed in all this virtue signalling. When you manufacture one of these things, particularly the batteries, that's completely ungreen. The only time these vehicles have any green component to them is when they're drawing on renewables, and we know they don't do that all the time because they're not a consistent source of energy. When you dispose of these things, you've got all sorts of environmental problems with it. So the target was ridiculous to start with. Australians are going to resist green vehicles or electric vehicles. No amount of subsidies is going to compensate for their inconvenience and their impracticality. And another Bowen disaster, and we're seeing them all over the place.
We sure are, Garth. I mean, this never made sense. It seemed impossible. And as Michael pointed out, I mean, you're hooking up these electric cars to a system that runs predominantly on coal and gas anyway.
And will continue to run on coal and gas for quite some time. Look, Labor, Green and the Teals all together just seem obsessed with telling Australians what to do. I don't think Australians take too kindly to being told what type of car to buy. I was thinking about this, Andrew. My first car was an XD Falcon. It was about 16 years old by the time I got it. It's a big boxy Falcon, if you remember the type, looked like a cardboard box. I didn't get it because of the way it looked or anything about it. I got it because it was what I could afford. And in a cost of living crisis, for a government's focus to be on forcing one type of vehicle, a more expensive type of vehicle, by the way, on Australians is absolutely out of touch with what most people are going through. We should be supporting Australians and the choices that they make right across the board, particularly in their selection of cars. Absolutely. Michael Costa, running out of time, but I've got to ask you quickly about this. The Albanese government did have good news today. From now on, people on the National Disability Insurance Scheme won't be able to get taxpayers to pay for prostitutes, cuddle therapy, cruises, shamanic healing, aromatherapy, tarot cards, clairvoyance, among many other things. But reading this list, I have to ask, Michael, why do taxpayers ever have to pay for that kind of stuff?
Absolutely the right question. Shonky treatments from a shonky system. Let's be clear, this is not the worst part of this system, and the government's focused on the fraud, and now we're focusing on the shonky treatments. But the inefficiencies is what's killing the system. You know, I have a personal experience from people that have gone into these schemes, and the management fees are astronomical, 30-40% of the package. And you've got tradies, you know, hard to get now because they're all chasing NDIS dollars because there's so much money in it. So you've got inefficiency, fraud, and inappropriate policies. The whole scheme should be scrapped and started again.
It's so true when you think of the real need that needs to be addressed there. Garth Hamilton, Michael Costa, thank you very much for your time.